A man who admitted his guilt in a double murder back in 2010 here in Madison County learned his punishment today.
The University of Kentucky says a former employee was selling lab equipment on eBay. Now they're working with the U.S. Attorney's Office.
WKYT News starts now with breaking news.
Good afternoon from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant here with Barbara Bailey, and firefighters are at the scene of a large fire in central Kentucky. It broke out at a large home on Browns Mill Road off Leestown near the Scott-Fayette County line about 10:30 this morning.
Officer Don Evans flew over the scene just a short while ago. You can see a lot of smoke and even flames pouring out of the house. WKYT's Michelle Chamberlain is live on the ground. She joins us now with the latest breaking details. Michelle?
Barbara and Bill, you could see the smoke from this house fire miles away, and when we got here, we saw the homeowner, and he just watched as his house burned to the ground. Take a look at this video. It was so intense when we arrived. This home is a two-story home, and it was just collapsing. Scott County Fire says the nearest water supply is a mile away, so they've had to shuttle water back and forth to the home. Neighbors tell me a couple and their children live here. A Scott County fire official says he doesn't believe anyone was in the home at the time of the fire, but obviously they're still investigating. In the meantime, neighbors are just watching, and the homeowner's just watching as this home burns to the ground. One neighbor tells me he believed the home is at least 5,000 square feet. And one other neighbor tells me he believes that the homeowner had a dog inside of the home at the time of the fire. Fire officials will not confirm this, but they do say they are investigating, and right now they are just trying to get this fire under control. In Scott County, Michelle Chamberlain, WKYT.
All right, Michelle, thank you very much, and we'll check back with you a little bit later in this hour of news. One day after his wife, Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, was in the bluegrass, former President Bill Clinton is making stops across the Commonwealth today, stumping for her. This is a live picture from outside the William T. Young Library on the UK campus. We'll show you in here just a moment. People are eagerly awaiting Clinton's arrival, expected at around 12:30. We'll get that picture a little later. First, he made a stop in Moorhead today, trying to appeal to voters there. WKYT's Mark Barber is live now with some reaction to that. Mark?
Good afternoon, Bill. Bill Clinton just finished speaking to people here at Moorhead State University about 30 minutes ago. Now, there were several people here this morning who told me they still do not know if they will vote for Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton in Kentucky's primary in 2 weeks. Bill Clinton made his pitch to those undecided voters this morning, trying to win them over before the primary. The former president started off the campaign event here at the Science and Space Lab, where students build microchips for satellites. Then he took the stage in a packed room to drum up support for his wife. The former president expanded on the points that Hillary Clinton discussed with voters in Ashland yesterday, telling voters here that she can help people who lost jobs in the coal and steel industries find work again. Bill Clinton also drew a sharp line between Hillary and Governor Matt Bevin. He sharply criticized the governor for cutting funding for higher education and trying to scrap Medicaid.
So what I think we should do, what Hillary thinks we should do, is pass something called the public option. If you can't get affordable insurance, the co-pays, deductibles, or premiums are too high, you ought to be able to buy into Medicare if you're over 55, buy into Medicaid if you're under 55.
Now, one of the big topics of conversation here this morning was how Hillary Clinton could increase job opportunities for people living in the region. Now, Bill Clinton did lay out some detailed specifics as far as what kind of ideas she has to increase those job opportunities. And we'll have that part of this campaign event coming up for you on WKYT News at 12:30. Live in Moorhead, Mark Barber, WKYT.
Mark, thank you. And after he finished talking with voters at MSU, Clinton started heading straight to the University of Kentucky, where he's supposed to speak to a crowd of voters at the William T. Young Library in about a half hour or so. Hillary Clinton's challenger, Senator Bernie Sanders, is also coming to Kentucky today, and he'll be here tomorrow. Voters are expected to start showing up for his rally at Louisville's Waterfront Park around 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then tomorrow he will be in Lexington to speak at a rally at Heritage Hall in the evening.
Meanwhile, voters in Indiana are heading to the polls today to decide who should be the presidential nominees. Republican frontrunner Donald Trump expects to win a majority of the 57 delegates at stake in the Hoosier state, despite attempts by Ted Cruz to slow his momentum. Clinton is locked in a tight race with Sanders in Indiana, but once you factor in superdelegates, she's 90% of the way to clinching her party's nomination. The University of Kentucky has fired an employee after an audit showed hundreds of thousands of dollars in inappropriate purchases and fraud. The audit found more than $240,000 of equipment and other materials taken by a former employee in the physics and astronomy department. WKYT's Victor Puente is live on the UK campus now with the very latest. Victor?
A UK spokesperson says it was another employee who tipped them off that something was wrong. The university says they fired Steve Ellis in September. He worked in the physics and astronomy department for 10 years. They say a university audit uncovered nearly $250,000 in inappropriate purchases. Ellis is accused of purchasing lab equipment and selling it on eBay. UK police say they also seized property from storage units rented by Ellis. Nearly 80 items, including desktop computers, lab equipment, and projectors, were found in the search. The university says Ellis was first suspended last spring, then fired as the audit continued. The findings were presented this morning to the audit committee of the UK Board of Trustees. The university is making some changes to keep this from happening with anyone else.
So he had too much authority. So what the college has done, working with our internal audit division, is worked very vigorously to add additional processes, additional layers of approval, better reconciliation of items as they are purchased, centralizing some of those processes so we can take steps to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again.
Now, that university spokesperson said that UK police are working with the U.S. Attorney's Office. The U.S. Attorney's Office said they can neither confirm nor deny an active investigation. I spoke to Ellis this morning by phone. He said he had no comment. Live in Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Thank you, Victor. And Blanton says Ellis was also keeping royalties from lab manuals that were supposed to go to the university.
Well, heavy rain and storms have pushed their way out of the bluegrass this midday. There's still a chance for showers, though, as we head through the afternoon and into the evening hours. And we're also tracking much cooler temperatures heading in. WKYT meteorologist Micah Harris is live in our First Alert Weather Center.
Yeah, they're already getting going in the northern half, but it's not really moving southbound, not just yet. These are actually tracking toward the east. So you'll start to see this fill in north of I-64 here in the next couple of hours. This isn't a lot of rain. The thunderstorm activity is long gone. The severe thunderstorms, strong thunderstorms, you will not see that today. Temperatures are in the upper 50s, lower 60s, and then any rain that we get going here in the next few hours, it's going to be very light. A couple of showers here and there, and that's going to be your best bet is along that 64 corridor and northbound. That'll take you off into the evening. Evening, it really does fade away and into the night. We're pretty cool starting off tomorrow morning. The focus of the forecast, though, is not so much about the rain, even though we have a chance today, tomorrow, and on Thursday. It's about you better be ready for those coats. You better have them handy because it's going to get very chilly in the next couple of days. I'm going to show you how low we go with those temperatures coming up.
All right, everybody, be on a code search. Thank you very much, Micah. A man who admitted to playing a role in the murder of a Central Kentucky couple more than 5 years ago has now learned his fate. Daniel Keene pleaded guilty to kidnapping, murder, and several other charges in connection to the 2010 deaths of Sansari Warford and Charles Walker in Richmond. WKYT's Hillary Thornton is at the Madison County Courthouse, where Keene was sentenced this morning. Hillary?
Daniel King took responsibility back in March for his role played in the 2010 double murder. Today, the judge giving him the recommended sentence of 40 years. King accused in the kidnapping and murders of Sansari Warford and Charles Walker. The pair disappeared in 2010. Their bodies were later found buried in 2012. About a month ago, Keene admitting his role in the murders, pleading guilty to 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count each of burglary, tampering with physical evidence, and abuse of a corpse. Prosecutors recommended Keene serve sentences for all of those charges concurrently, spending a total of 40 years in prison. Before the judge handed down the punishment, prosecutors spoke, saying the nature of the crimes and realization of contracted murders happening in Madison County brought a sense of horror and insecurity to the community. Then it was Daniel Keene's turn to talk, reading a letter to family of the victims, saying the events of that night shame him to his core. Attorneys acknowledging that Keene's confession did lead them to the bodies 2 years after the murder. However, family members say they believe that and his guilty plea were done for himself and not for their peace of mind. They also say they do not feel like justice was served.
I want him to never see the light of day, like my daughter would never see the light of day. Her and Charles is gone. They'll never be here again. He will see his family again at some point in time. We never will see her.
Now, Keene will be eligible for parole in about 20 years, and he does get credit for time served, which his attorneys say is about 4 years. In Madison County, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
Hillary, thank you. Another man, Matthew Denholm, was sentenced to 4 life terms in prison in the case. Denholm pleaded guilty to 2 counts each of murder and kidnapping. Well, pizza lovers will soon have a new location to grab a slice in Lexington. Goodfellas is opening up a 3rd location at the historic Pepper Distillery campus on Manchester Street. The New York-style restaurant will overlook Town Branch. The owners have told the Herald Leader they will continue to sell pizza by the slice or by a pretty large 22-inch pie. Construction is expected to start in the next month. Goodfellas hoping to open up by August. So there you go, an area that's really been making a lot of progress, that part of town.
It has changed so much, yes.
One of the greatest racehorses of all time is the focus now of a new exhibit in Louisville.
The Kentucky Derby Museum opened the American Pharoah exhibit at Churchill Downs. It's filled with trophies from the Triple Crown winning horse's career. Pharoah's trainer, Bob Baffert, says a film honoring the horse called The Greatest Race was emotional to watch.
They've done a tremendous job of how to celebrate such a wonderful horse that really helped put racing back on the map again.
American Pharoah was the first horse to win the Triple Crown since a firm did it in 1978.
Quite the horse, for sure. Rapper 50 Cent is under fire for taunting a worker at the Northern Kentucky airport. We'll have more on his viral video that has many lashing out, coming up on Kentucky's #1 midday news.
Also ahead, Hollywood and high fashion collided at the annual Met Costume Gala in New York City. We'll show you some of the best red carpet looks next on WKYT. Welcome back to WKYT News at noon. There will be extra security today at the funeral for 6 of the 8 family members killed in that Southern Ohio shooting massacre last month.
The service at a church in West Portsmouth is the last of 3 funerals for the members of the Roden family. They were found dead almost 2 weeks ago at 4 properties about 80 miles east of Cincinnati. Investigators have been calling it a planned attack, and they're trying to figure out if a Mexican drug cartel is behind the murders. So far, no arrests have been made.
Look at him. Look at the. What kind of you think he took before he got to work today? He high as a right here in the airport.
Rapper 50 Cent is facing some backlash this midday after posting that video on Twitter. It shows him mocking a worker at the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport, accusing the worker of being high on drugs. What the rapper didn't know is that Andrew Farrell has a hearing impairment, mild autism, and a social anxiety disorder. Andrew's family says the outpouring of support they've been receiving has been overwhelming. They're asking 50 Cent for an apology. Despite all the attention online, the rapper has not commented about the video. Well, a celebration of fashion at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City.
It's the annual Met Costume Institute Gala benefit. Celebrities walked the red carpet. This year's theme was Manus versus Machina. Fashion in an age of technology, exploring designs made by hand versus machine-made. With metallic accents and sleek hairstyles, everyone from Madonna, Kim Kardashian, and Taylor Swift to Amy Schumer, Lady Gaga, and Beyonce, they all had their own takes on the theme. The exhibit will run at the Met from May 5th through August 14th. British Vogue is commemorating its 100th anniversary in royal style. The Duchess of Cambridge will appear in the June issue of the fashion magazine. The portraits, which were shot by British photographer Josh Olens, show Kate in the Norfolk countryside in a casual, relaxed setting. Meanwhile, Kate's daughter, Princess Charlotte, is also striking a pose. 4 new pictures have been released ahead of her first birthday. The photos were taken by her mom at the family residence in Norfolk, the same place Kate was photographed. And aren't they adorable?
Precious, cute.
Coming up at 12:30, we'll take you to Moorhead, where Bill Clinton is campaigning hard for his wife, Hillary.
Now, your zone-by-zone forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris.
Cloudy skies, looks like it could rain on us at any time, and you know what? It's going to later on. We'll at least have some showers out and about. But for right now, we're pretty dry. If you're still trying to get out to the grocery store before the kids get home, run a few errands, you can do that. Because there's just not much rain in the forecast for today, and there's definitely not much right now. All this that you see up toward the north is actually moving, if you watch it, it's moving eastbound. It's not so much moving south. But what I do expect right along 64 and north, that's where you see some spark up just a bit, and they'll slide southbound as we travel throughout your afternoon. Temperatures are in the upper 50s, lower 60s. Going throughout the rest of your day, just expect a couple of light showers. Thunderstorms are long gone for today, but they increase once again for tomorrow. Tomorrow, no severe weather expected, but showers and thunderstorms will be in the forecast. Watch this as we travel off into your afternoon. Look what happens. Yeah, here we go. Here's 2 p.m. So anywhere from noontime to about 5, 6 p.m. That's your best bet at getting rain off in here. That's downtown Lexington and really across the region because it's going to be widespread tomorrow. We go throughout your evening and it fades away. And once it fades away, it doesn't really last long because it picks right back up on Thursday, and it looks like Thursday afternoon back with the rain chances. So today, tomorrow, and on Thursday, the rain chances are there. But guys, I want you to pay attention overnight. Thursday morning, Friday morning in the upper 30s, lower 40s. I don't see much of a frost out of this one, and definitely no freeze. But still, you're talking about some really chilly conditions, but it really ramps back up Friday afternoon at 68, and Saturday 74 degrees. Those 2 days look pretty good as of right now. Let's hope that lasts.
Yeah,
Let's hope that
that's
continues.
very pleasant. Let's see if it, we'll try to hold on. Thank
and for the record, we always pay attention to you. Always.
Thank you very much. I need that.
All right, we're coming back on WKYT in just a moment. Mitch Barnhart's take on Wildcat chaos.
And will a Central Kentucky coach be coming home to join the Cats? Dave Baker's next with sports.
And checking stocks as we head into afternoon trading. The major market indicators are way down at midday.
Mark Stoops made a big run, but at least for now, he did not get his man. Sources telling WKYT Sports that former EKU head coach Dean Hood has turned down a chance to join the UK staff. The UK head coach went to Charlotte last week to try and convince Hood to replace the recently departed Andy Boo on the UK staff. Reportedly, Hood was offered a multi-year deal, which he seriously considered before saying no. Hood was fired at the end of the 2015 season after 8 years as the head man at EKU. Shortly after that, he accepted an assistant head coach's job and tight ends coach's job at Charlotte. Charlotte head coach Brad Lambert was the man who succeeded Hood as defensive coordinator at Wake Forest when Hood took the EKU job, and reportedly that loyalty to Lambert for hiring him was one of the biggest reasons that Hood has said no to the Cats. UK Athletics Director Mitch Barnhart sat down for a lengthy Q&A session with our Dick Gabriel yesterday, and one of the prominent topics, Kentucky women's basketball. With all the turmoil that has been around the program, Barnhart has made it clear that stability needs to happen and happen quickly. But at the same time, his support for the Kentucky coach and what he's doing on and off the court hasn't wavered.
One of my favorite stories recently is Asia Bishop calling him from Turkey saying, "Hey coach, which John Maxwell book do I need to be reading now?" You know, and that's a pretty cool story. I mean, Asia Bishop is playing professionally in Turkey talking about which book she needs to read now. That's a heck of an influence when you've made that kind of influence on a young person. Coaching is hard, and getting young people to understand that most of the things you do, at least if you got a right heart, is for their best interest.
6:30 tonight over at Cliff Hagan Stadium. The Cats host EKU in a baseball rescheduled game. We'll tell you more about that a little bit later, guys. But for now, that's a look at sports on this Tuesday.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you, Dave. And there's a lot more coming up now on WKYT News as we continue a rude awakening for a Lexington woman who found a man with a knife right inside her home.
Fire destroys a huge Central Kentucky home. Our Michelle Chamberlain is live at the scene with the very latest. And tonight's Mega Millions jackpot is $128 million. Wednesday night's Powerball jackpot is $348 million.